Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Khairunisa binti Ahmad Kamudin and my matric number is I18102852. Me and my partner Adiba Farina will present Chapter 10, Internal Selection for Staffing Organizations. In this chapter, we have three main topics to talk about, which is preliminary issues, initial assessment methods, and substantive assessment methods. First, let's take a look for the learning objective. The learning objectives for this chapter is we can able to compare how the logic predictions applies to internal selection versus external selection decisions. Next, we can evaluate the relative advantages and disadvantages of 5 initial assessment methods used in internal selections. Then, consider the merits and pitfalls of using seniority and experience for internal selection decisions. Furthermore, we can describe the main features of assessment centers. Moreover, understand the advantages and disadvantages of using assessment centers for internal selection decisions. And last but not least, evaluate the relative advantages and disadvantages of the 7 substantive assessment methods used in internal selection. The introduction for internal selection refers to the assessment and evaluation of employees from within the organization as they move between jobs via transfer and promotion system. Bermakna penilaian dan pemilihan pekerja melalui sistem pertukaran dan kenaikan pangkat. Internal selection is of considerable practical value to an organization because one nearly always known as one's own employees better than external applicants. And effective internal selection decisions can motivate valued employees in any organization. Preliminary issues we will discuss to guide the use of assessment methods include the logic of prediction, the nature of predictors, and the development of a selection plan. Initial assessment methods are used to select candidates from among the internal selection. From among the internal applicants. Methods that will be reviewed include talent management or succession system, peer assessment and self-assessment, managerial sponsorship, and informal discussion and recommendations. The criteria used to choose among these methods will be discussed. Next is substantive assessment methods are used to select finalists from among the internal candidates. Various methods will be reviewed, including seniority and experience, job knowledge tests, performance appraisal, promotability ratings, assessment centers, interview simulations, and promotion panels and review boards. The criteria used to choose among the substantive assessment methods will also be discussed. Discretionary assessment method are used to select of a recipient from among the finalists. The factors on which these decisions are based will be also considered, including equal employment, opportunity and affirmative action. Including equal employment, opportunity, and affirmative action concerns. Whether the finalists had previously been finalists and second opinions about the finalists by others in the organization. All of these assessment methods require a large amount of data to be collected. Accordingly, attention must be given to support services, the required expertise needed to administer and interpret predictors, security, privacy, and neutrality, and the standardization of procedures. Also, the use of internal selection methods requires a clear understanding of legal issues. So first, we take a look at preliminary issues atau masalah awal pemilihan, iaitu the logic of prediction, logik ramalan. Indicators of internal applicants' degree of success in past situations should be predictive or their likely success in new situations. Maksudnya, graf kejayaan seseorang itu akan menjadi ramalan untuk organisasi untuk kejayaan yang seterusnya. Maksudnya, graf kejayaan seseorang itu akan menjadi ramalan sesebuah organisasi untuk organisasi tersebut mencapai kejayaan seterusnya. Kemudian, situasi baru adalah kekosongan dalam organisasi yang membuatkan organisasi tersebut membuat promosi melalui dalam organisasi sahaja. As you may recall from chapter 8 and 9, three most valued external selection measures are biography data biography, cognitive ability test, ujian kemampuan kognitif atau ujian kemampuan pekerja dalam menyelesaikan masalah mengikut logik akal, pengiraan, bayangan objek dan komunikasi, and work samples, iaitu sampel kerja daripada pekerja itu sendiri. In this chapter, we focus on process and methods, proses dan kaedah pemilihan to promotion and transfer decision. Maksudnya, organisasi ini mempunyai proses dan kaedah satu persatu yang perlu diikuti untuk kenaikan pangkat dan pemindahan. Although the logic of prediction and the likely effectiveness of selection methods are similar for external and internal selection, iaitu kaedah pemilihan dalaman mempunyai kelebihan atau potensi berbanding pemilihan luaran, khususnya data yang dikumpulkan daripada pemohon dalaman dalam pekerjaan sebelumnya sering diberi peluang yang meluas untuk melakukan tugasan dalam organisasi daripada pemohon luar. While internal selection has important advantages over external selection, there are two factors that can derail, menjatuhkan the logic prediction. First, impression management and organizational politics can play important roles in who gets promoted in the organization. Maksudnya, pengurusan kesan dan politik organisasi dapat memainkan peranan penting dalam sesiapa yang dinaikkan pangkat. Orang atasan perlu membuat penilaian dan pemilihan dengan betul untuk mengelakkan kejatuhan organisasi pada masa hadapan. Next factor is decision makers selecting internal candidates need to make sure they are selecting the right candidates with the right reasons, iaitu harus memilih pekerja dalaman yang betul dengan mengikut alasan yang betul. Furthermore, the candidates also need to look through the promotions reason, because study revealed that the job responsibilities of nearly half, 46% of recently promoted executives remain roughly the same after their new titles. Next is types of predictors. The distinctions between the types of predictors used in external selection are also applicable to the different types of internal predictors. One important difference to note between internal and external predictors pertains to the content. There is usually greater depth and relevance to the data available on internal candidates. That is, the organization can go to its own files or manager to get reports on applicants' previous experience. Maksudnya di sini, perbezaan yang dibuat antara jenis ramalan yang digunakan dalam pemilihan luaran adalah juga berlaku untuk pelbagai jenis ramalan dalaman. Satu perbezaan yang penting perlu diperhatikan antara peramal dalaman dan luaran berkaitan dengan kandungannya, di mana membawa maksud biasanya lebih mendalam dan relevan dengan data yang ada pada calon dalaman. Artinya, organisasi yang hanya boleh pergi ke fail persendirian atau pengurus untuk mendapatkan laporan mengenai pengalaman terdahulu pemohon. So, next is selection plan. It is important for internal selection to avoid the problems of favoritisms and gut instinct that can be especially prevalent in internal selection. Boleh baca dalam buku muka surat 517 untuk penerangan penuh. Penerangan Keterangan di atas membahas iaitu sesetengah organisasi membuat pilihan dengan berdasarkan pada who you know, iaitu siapa yang anda kenal, dan bukan pada pengetahuan, kemahiran, kemampuan dan ciri yang berkaitan mengikut KSAO, iaitu knowledge, skills, abilities and other characteristics. Antara alasan yang dibuat oleh pengurus adalah kerana calon telah bekerja lama dalam organisasi dan percaya kepada calon tersebut. Antara sebab lain adalah masa yang diluangkan di dalam organisasi, perasaan dan persahabatan yang berkembang dari masa ke semasa dapat menimbulkan halangan untuk pemilihan yang berkesan. Jadi di sini untuk memilih pekerja yang berkualiti dan akan menjaminkan masa depan organisasi, pihak atasan perlu bijak membuat pemilihan antara pekerja dalaman. Okay, now let's take a look on initial assessment methods atau kaedah penilaian awal. First is talent management atau succession system, sistem pengurusan bakat atau penggantian. Most of organizations have a desire to internally select or promote from within for both informational and motivational reasons. Respectively, the reasons are that one knows one's employees better than external applicants, and that value employees may be motivated and retained based on an expectation of future promotions. As a leader, either you are a manager or a supervisor or any higher position, you need to keep ongoing records of skills, talent and capabilities of employees. Maksudnya, anda sebagai ketua atau memiliki jawatan yang lebih tinggi, anda perlu menyimpan data pekerja dalaman untuk dinilai oleh organisasi semasa pemilihan kenaikan jawatan. And the primary goal is to facilitate internal selection system through up-to-date, accurate records on employees untuk memudahkan sistem pemilihan dalaman melalui rekod yang terkini dan tepat mengenai pekerja. Hal ini juga ingin membuatkan organisasi tidak memilih orang yang salah untuk sesuatu jawatan. Talent management or succession system can be used to attain many goals, including performance management, pengurusan prestasi, recruitment need analysis, analisis keperluan pengambilan pekerja, employee development, pengembangan pekerja, compensation, pampasan dan career management, pengurusan kerjaya. Okay, so now take a look on peer assessment atau penilaian rakan sekerja. Assessment by peers or co-workers can be used to evaluate the promotability of an internal applicant. Maksudnya penilaian rakan sekerja boleh digantikan untuk menilai gaya promosi seseorang pekerja dalaman. A variety of methods can be used including peer ratings, penilaian rakan sekerja, peer nominations, pencalonan rakan sekerja, and peer ranking, kedudukan rakan sekerja. So I provide you all with Exhibit 10.1 from Staffing Organization book, page 520 for peer assessment methods. Dekat situ kita boleh nampak how the peer rating could be done, where the other employees will rate the following employees for the promotable positions. The example show that Jen, John, Andy and Herb need to be choose for the position of manager. So they need to rate on a scale 1 to 5. Next is peer nominations by placing X next to the employee who is most promotable to the position manager. And last but not least, peer ranking happened by the following employees as shown as in Exhibit 10.1 need to ranking from the promotable 1 and to the least promotable number 5 for the position. The strength of peer assessment rely on raters who presumably are knowledgeable of applicants. Knowledge, skills, abilities or other characteristics, and peers more likely to view decision as fair due to their input. Maksud di sini, rakan cenderung melihat keputusan sebagai adil kerana input mereka. The weaknesses may encourage friendship bias, mendorong berat sebelah persahabatan. Maksudnya apabila mereka perlu membuat keputusan pemilihan, mereka perlu membuat pilihan yang menjamin masa depan organisasi, dan itu mungkin menyebabkan mereka tidak memilih rakan sendiri atau sebab mungkin tidak cukup pengetahuan mengikut pengalaman dan berlakunya salah faham. And moreover, the criteria involved in assessment are not always clear. Kriteria yang terlibat dalam penilaian tidak selalu jelas. Ini menyebabkan calon salah faham. So next is self-assessment. Job incumbents can be asked to evaluate their own skills as a best for determining promotability. This procedure is sometimes used with open recruitment system. An example of this approach is shown in Exhibit 10.1. Caution must be exercised in using this process for selection, as it may raise the expectation of those rating themselves that they will be selected. As one VP of HR noted, some people think a lot more highly of their skills and talent than is warranted. Employee supervisors should encourage upward mobility, not hard talent, but they also need to ensure that employees are realistic in their self-assessment. Further caution is also warranted given that even the inclusion of self-assessment may result in biased promotion judgment by HR expert and novices alike. Okey, maksudnya di sini, pegawai pekerjaan boleh diminta untuk menilai kemahiran mereka sendiri sebagai asas untuk menentukan promosi. Prosedur ini kadang-kadang digunakan dengan sistem pengambilan terbuka. Contoh pendekatan ini ditunjukkan dalam paparan 10.2. Hal ini mesti dilakukan secara berhati-hati dalam membuat proses pemilihan, kerana dapat meningkatkan jangkaan penilaian tersebut bahawa diri mereka akan dipilih. Seperti yang dinyatakan oleh VP HR, sebilangan orang berpendapat lebih banyak kemahiran dan bakat mereka daripada yang dibenarkan. Pengawas pekerja harus mendorong mobiliti ke atas pekerja, tetapi mereka juga perlu untuk memastikan bahawa pekerja bersikap realistik dalam penilaian kendiri mereka. Untuk pemilihan ini, pihak HR juga perlu berhati-hati untuk tidak mengakibatkan penilaian promosi berat sebelah. Next slide is about managerial sponsorship. Organizations are relying on higher ups to identify, mengenal pasti dan develop, mengembangkan the knowledge, skills, ability and other characteristics (KSAO) of those at lower levels in the organization. Historically, the higher up has been the person immediate supervisor, pernah menjadi penyelia. Higher up are sometimes labeled as coaches, pelatih, sponsor, penaja, or mentor, and their roles are defined in Exhibit 10.3. That I'll be explained later. Regardless of the formality of the relationship, these highest up often have considerable influence in the promotion decision. Moreover, important too is the developmental nature of this relationship. Sponsors are in a position to not only internally select candidates to sponsor, but also give these individuals valuable developmental experience that make them viable candidates in the future. Research shows that employees working with sponsor who provide them with challenging developmental experiences earn higher promotability ratings after those experiences Mentors too may provide psychosocial support for employees by being a sounding board, a source of interpersonal support, or a confidant, and indeed this form of support may be the clearest consequence of mentoring. Research also has shown that proteges are not the only ones who benefit from mentoring relationships. Mentors do as well. A recent meta-analysis found that those who mentored others had higher levels of job satisfaction, commitment to the organization, and job performance than those not in mentoring roles. Thus, rather than being just one-sided relationship, effective mentoring can be reciprocally rewarding for both parties. Okay, next slide is about informal discussions and recommendations. Not all promotion decisions are made on the basis of formal HR policy and procedures. For many promotions, much or all of decision process occurs outside normal channels through informal discussion and recommendations. For example, Celeste Russell, Vice President of HR for Good Times Entertainment, invites employees out for coffee. It's like a sales call, she says. Although such informal discussions are a common means of internal selection decisions, especially in small companies, they may have limited validity because they are quite subjective. Although Russell prides herself on knowing the names of employee pets and other personal information, it seems likely that the personal and subjective nature of this conversation compromise her ability to make internal selection decisions relative to cold and hard data, such as skills, accomplishments, abilities, and so forth. Such is the case with many, if not most, informal approaches to selections.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Adiba Farhana binti Zainuddin, number matric I81028848. Today, I would like to present about choice of initial assessment method. 2 points should be made about the effectiveness of initial internal selection method. First, talent management or succession system and informal methods are used extensively, suggesting that many organizations continue to rely on closed rather than open internal recruitment system. Certainly, this is a positive procedure when administrative is of importance. However, it must be noted that talented applicants may be overlooked in this approach. Also, there are many discriminatory impacts on women and minorities. Secondly, peer assessment methods are very promising in terms of reliability and validity. They are not frequently used, but more organizations should be considered using them as a screening device. Perhaps this will take place on organizations continue to decentralize decision-making and empower employees to make business decisions historically made only by a supervisor. This slide, I would explain about substantive assessment methods. There are 7 types, which is seniority and experience, job knowledge test, performance appraisal, promotability ratings, assessment center, interview simulation, and promotion panels and review boards. Experience. This is an overview of seniority and experience. Seniority is about length of service with organization, department, or job. Experience not only length of service but also kind of activities an employee has undertaken. Maksudnya bukan sahaja pengalaman tapi penglibatan dalam aktiviti organisasi. Why so widely used? Note: direct experience in a job content area reflects an accumulated stock of KSAOS, mean job area yang melibatkan knowledge, skills, ability and other skills necessary to perform job. Information is easily and cheaply obtained. It also protects employee from capricious treatment and favorites. Promoting senior or experienced employee is socially acceptable, viewed as rewarding royalty. Evaluation of seniority and experience. Employees typically expect promotion will go to more senior or experienced employee. Relationship to job performance. Seniority is unrelated to job performance, and experience is moderately to job performance, especially in a short run. Experience is superior because it is a more valid method than seniority, more likely to be content valid when past or present jobs are similar to the future job. Experience is unlikely to remedy initial performance difficulty of low ability employees, is better suited to predict short-term rather than a long-term potential. Job knowledge test. Job knowledge includes of both element ability, which is capacity to learn, and seniority, which is opportunity to learn. Measured by a paper and pencil test or a computer. For example, a job knowledge test used to select sales manager from salespeople must identify the specific knowledge necessary for being a successful sales manager. Third, holds great promise as a predictor of job performance. Reflect an assessment of what learned with experience. Also capture cognitive ability, which reflects learning potential and reflects what has already been learned. So we move to another slide, which is performance appraisal. A possible predictor of future job performance is past job performance collected by a performance appraisal process. The advantages is readily available and probably capture both ability and motivation. A weakness is about a potential lack of a direct correspondence between requirements of current job and requirement of position applied for. By a Peter Principle. The Peter Principle states, if you perform well in job, you will likely be promoted to the next level of your organization's hierarchy. You will continue to raise up the ladder until you reach the point where you can no longer perform well. The question to ask in using performance appraisal as a method of internal staffing decision is about, is the performance appraisal process reliable and unbiased? Is present job content representative of future job content? Have the KS for performance in the future jobs been acquired and demonstrated in previous job? Is the organization or job environment stable, such what lead a past job success will lead to job future success? Next, promotability ratings. Assessing promotability involves determining an applicant's potential for higher level job. Promotability ratings are often conducted along with a performance appraisal, useful for both selection and recruitment. Selection means choosing the best candidate from the pool of applicants and offering them to the job. And recruitment is about process of finding candidates for vacant position and encouraging them to apply for it. Next, career grade. When receiving separate evaluation for purpose of appraisal, promoting, and pay, an employee may receive mixed message. Assessment Center. Overview of Assessment Center is about elaborate method of employee selection. Involves using a collection of predictors to forecast success, primarily in higher level jobs. The objective is about a predict an individual behavior and effectiveness in critical roles using managerial. And third, cooperates multiple methods for assessing multiple KSAO using multiple assessors. Sample Assessment Center Rating Form. Participants take part in several exercises over multiple days. First, in-basket exercise. An in-basket test or an in-basket exercise is a test used by companies or government in hiring and promoting employees. During the test, job applicants receive a number of mails, telephone calls, documents, and memos. They then have a limited period of time to set priorities, organize their working schedule accordingly, and respond to the mail and phone call. Second, ladderless group discussion. The ladderless of assessment center exercise where groups of applicants meet as a group to discuss an actual job-related problem. As the meeting proceeds, the behavior of the candidate is observed to see how they interact and what leadership and communication skill each person displays. Since every group would be different, individuals could argue that the process is biased and unfair. The process is not standardized. Next, we can see the case analysis. A case analysis requires you to investigate a business problem, examine the alternative solution, and propose the most effective solution using supporting evidence. Next, we can see the trained assessor evaluate participant performance. Is the extent to which the score from the measure represent the variable they are intended to. Characteristic of assessment center. Participants are usually measured being assessed for a higher level managerial jobs. Participants are evaluated by assessor at conclusion of program. Evaluation of assessment center. Validity. Average validity is 37. Validity is higher when multiple predictors are used. Assessors are psychologists rather than managers. Peer evaluation are used and possesses incremental validity in predicting performance and promotability beyond personality trait and cognitive ability tests. Research results. There are two. First, crown prince or princess syndrome. There are often employees throughout the organization who are capable of and interested in promotion who may be overlooked because of the more visible and obvious crowded prince who is likely to be promoted even if these other employees are available. And second, participant reaction is about a reaction of employees. Interview, simulation, and promotion panels and review. Role play. There are three types. First, role play. Candidate must play work-related role with interviewer. Second, fact-finding. candidate needs to solicit information to evaluate an incomplete case. And third, oral presentation. Candidate must prepare and make an oral presentation on assigned topic. Promotion panels and review boards use multiple raters which can improve relatability and can broaden commitment to decision reach. So here the example of evaluation of substantive assessment method 1. We have predator, which is seniority, experience, job knowledge test, performance appraisal, promotability ratings, and assessment center, and use cost, reliability, validity, utility, applicant reaction, and adverse impact. Is about results, which is have a high, low, moderate, positive, mixed. And validity is about the extent to which the assessment method is useful for predicting subsequent job performance. Cost is about both to develop and administer the assessment. Applicant reaction is about the extent to which applicants react positively versus negatively to assessment method. Of substantive assessment method 2 is about a predator, which is in the element of in-basket exercise, ladderless group discussion, case analysis, global assessment, interview simulation, and panels and review boards. It is the same there before, which is we have a use, cost, reliability, validity, utility, applicants, and reaction, and adverse impact. So the difference is predator. Discretionary assessment method narrows list of finalists to those who will receive job offer. Decision often made on basis of organizational citizenship behavior and staffing philosophy regarding EEO or AAA. EEO means that equal employment opportunity. And differences from external selection. Previous finally not receiving job offer do not simply disappear, and multiple assessors generally use. Legal issue. What is a legal issue? It's about from a legal perspective, methods and processes of internal selection are to be viewed in the same way as those of external selection. Uniform guidelines on employee selection procedures, or known as UGESP, is about a definition, a selection procedure in such a way that virtually any selection method be in use in an external or internal context. It's covered by requirements of the UGESP. Moreover, UGESP apply to any employment decision which explicitly includes promotion decision. Shattering the glass ceiling. There are employ greater use of selection plans. Second, minimize use of casual, subjective methods and use formal, standardized and job-related assessment methods. Third, implement programs to convey KSAOS necessary for advancement to aspiring employees.
Okay, next slide is about literature review 1. This is an article from ResearchGate, Assessment for Recruitment, January 2007. The author are Fiona Potterson and Pat Lane, University of Nottingham. A thorough job analysis is the foundation to an effective selection process and is used to guide choice of selection methods. The outputs from a job analysis should detail the task and responsibilities in the target job and also provide information about the particular behavioral characteristic required of the job holder. Jadi ini membawa maksud hasil daripada analisis pekerjaan harus memperincikan tugas dan tanggungjawab dalam pekerjaan sasaran dan juga memberi maklumat mengenai ciri-ciri tingkah laku tertentu yang diperlukan dari pemegang jawatan pekerjaan. The analysis will provide an inclusive description of the job relevant knowledge, skills, abilities, and attitudes that are associated with a competent job performance. There are many different selection methods available, and their relative accuracy is well documented in the research literature. When choosing the assessment method, it is very important to make sure that the assessment method is accurate, reliable, boleh dipercayai, relevant or valid atau sah, objective, and standard. Also administered by trained professionals and monitored, dipantau. Evaluation of the system is essential to ensure that selection tools are also fair, defensible, cost-effective, and feasible. Feedback is used to continually improve the selection system to enhance accuracy and fairness. Further, there are legal reasons for ensuring accurate selection procedures are used, and it is essential for compliance with current employment law. Conducting validation studies that become very complex in practical terms, since research would rarely use one single predictor to make a selection decision, and applicants will be judged on multiple assessment criteria. Given the multifaceted nature of job analysis information, recruiters are likely to design multiple selection tools to assess this criteria. Therefore, recruiters must decide whether a job applicant must score highly on all assessment criteria, non-compensatory, or whether high scores on some criteria can make up for low scores on another, compensatory. In practice, recruiters might assign different weightings to various assessment criteria depending on the nature of the job role. For example, if a clinical knowledge is the most important criterion and applicants do not achieve a certain score at shortlisting, they may be not considered further. So, before an organization makes selection, they need on paying attention to best practice criteria on designing selection methods. It is crucial. There are suggestions 12 key issues that should be reviewed when designing and implementing a selection system as follows. 1. Establishing reliability and validity of the tool. 2. Positive employee or candidate reactions. 3. Ensuring ease of interpretation. 4. Ensuring generality of use. 5. Minimizing cost and maximizing value. 6. Practicality. 7. Expertise required for analysis and interpretation of information generated by the tool. 8. Utility. 9. Fairness perspectives. 10. Educational impact of value. 11. Generates appropriate feedback. And last but not least, procedures are in place for ongoing validation, evaluation, and renewal of assessment tools. Just now, I explained a little bit about recruitment process, and now we will take a look on assessment center. Assessment center is a selection method, not place. It makes use of a combination of different selection tools and allow candidates to assessed by multiple assessor. It were first used during World War II to select military personnel. However, it was not until the American company AT&T applied SCs or Assessment Center to identify industrial managerial potential in the 1950s that the idea developed as a selection method. Since this time, Assessment Center have become widely used as a tools for recruitment and selection. Recent survey data indicates that the use of ACEs is increasing more rapidly than any other selection method in the UK, with 65% of organizations employing more than 1,000 people reporting using the AC method. It is only recently that this approach been used in medicine. Assessment centers are often the core of competency-based selection system, as they combine a range of assessment techniques to achieve the fullest and clearest indication of competence. AC typically involve a one-day assessment of applicants using different methods, including various work sample exercises such as group discussions, in-tray exercises, simulation, and so on. Gains are made in reliability and validity because ACs make use of a combination of different exercises, meaning using a multi-trade and multi-method approach, and use standardized scoring systems to measure key competency. Importantly, each of these is embodied by a cluster of indicators that define in behavioral terms the knowledge, skills, and abilities for each competency. The model was validated by general practitioners and patients. After extensive consultation, it was decided that certain domains are best targeted at selection. Example, communication skills and professional integrity, and others are best addressed during training. Example, legal, ethical, and political awareness. There are case studies about competency-based selection system for general practice. Okay, it is a story about NHS had been in existence for many years before doctors were given the opportunity to work as training assistant under supervision. Organized training schemes for general practice were created, principally between 1969 and 1973. This training was voluntary, hence vocational, but was made mandatory in 1981 by the Joint Committee on Postgraduate Training for General Practice (JCP-TGP). On the completion of training, doctors would submit statements of satisfactory completion of training to the JCP-TGP, and in return receive a certificate enabling them to practice unsupervised as a GP. The subsequent performance of a number of vocationally trained doctors was less than satisfactory, and some had their names erased from the General Medical Register by the GMC. In response to a growing concern that more robust evidence of competence was required, the process summative assessment was introduced, and this became mandatory in 1996. For over 25 years, GP training was largely focused upon developing the trilogy of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. In the mid of 1990s, recruitment to a general practice slipped to its lowest level for 15 years. The applicant or placement ratio had dropped from its peaks of 15/1 in 1981 to around 2/1 or less. Many training schemes were resorting to re-advertising vacancies up to 4 times for each intake. It was not uncommon to have unfilled vacancies. Significant contributory factors to this situation were The introduction of the common reforms of specialist training in the NHS, which has streamlined the pathway to becoming a consultant. A generally negative medical press about general practice, fund holding had run out of steam, and impending new NHS organizational changes in primary care were not welcomed by GPs. When they need to develop new selection, and there are some points that during the debates in the late of 1990s about the implications of the transfer of funding for GP training, the GP directors were concerned that those doctors who operate the system known as patronage made a greater process than others. Maksudnya doktor yang boleh mengoperasikan sistem lebih dikenali. Second, a number of doctors were being referred to the JMC within months of graduation. Sejumlah doktor yang dirujuk kepada JMC dalam beberapa bulan sejak tamat pengajian. It was noted that a significant number of GP trainees were quitting training courses because they had chosen the wrong career. Diperhatikan bahawa sebilangan besar pelatih GP berhenti daripada latihan kursus kerana memilih kerjaya yang salah, and around 5% of doctors were failing summative assessment. Sekitar 5% doktor yang gagal dalam penilaian summative. So, for this case study, we can see the box 5.1, the key competency in GP performance. There are different criteria of key competency related with the selection system that the candidates need to fulfill a position. There are different of competencies such as empathy and sensitivity, communication skills, problem solving, professional integrity, coping with pressure, clinical expertise, managing others and team involvement, legal, ethical and political awareness, learning and personal development, organization and administration skill, personal attributions. So, each of these embodied by a cluster of indicators that define in behavioral terms the knowledge, skills and abilities for each competency. So, the journal and the subtopic of the assessment center need to pay attention to choose the best candidate. Moreover, in book mentioned that incorporates multiple methods use of assessing multiple KASOs. Using multiple assessor, in the journal it mentioned that best practice suggests that ACs use work-related exercises allowing behavioral observation by independent, also trained assessors. It means that an organization will provide a multiple and trained assessors along the selection to make sure they choose the right person.
Literature Review 2, D.B. Bagel, PhD 2014, a research paper on study of employees' performance appraisal system. It is about improving performance and ultimate effectiveness. Performance appraisal is a systematic means of ensuring that superiors and their staff meet regularly to discuss past and present performance issues and to agree what feature is appropriate on both sides. This meeting should be based on clear and mutual understanding of the job in question and the understands an employee and outcomes which are a part of it. Normal circumstances, employees should be appraised by their immediate superior on one to other basis. Often the distinction between appraiser and appraised assessment concerns itself only the past and the present. The staff is being appraised when they are encouraged to look up ahead to improve effectiveness, utilize strengths, weakness, and examine how potential and aspiration should match up. The objective in the research is to study the employee performance appraisal system in the SEMCO electorate. And for the secondary objective is about to study and analysis The effectiveness of present performance appraisal method being followed in organization to collect feedback of appraisal and about the existing performance appraisal method, to collect information about the drawbacks, shortcomings for performance appraisal system in place in the organization, and to make suggestions based on employee feedback and other information collected with a view to improve the appraisal system in the organization. Sample method is used for data collection, the type of data collected by primary data and secondary data. Primary data is about a data which is collected for one's own research purpose. The primary data was collected through questionnaire and information discussion, and it is interpreted. The questions were framed so as to gain maximum first-hand knowledge from workers, which were analysed in order to arrive at a suitable conclusion. There are two types of primary data. First, questionnaire, and second, informant discussion. Questionnaire is about 65 questionnaires were distributed covering various departments such as personnel, marketing, export, manufacturing, finance, training and materials. And informal discussion were held with various employees with the organization, especially in the personnel department and the training department. This gained additional information not only related to the subject of the research but also other functions and activities. And the secondary data is about collected from past record and manual of the company, such as book, internet, and this data already collected, which is made available for reference purpose. In the research, the secondary source used are various files and record maintained by organization. The data collection is both primary and secondary data collected for the purpose of research, and it is a sample size which is selected 65 appraisal of fresher and appraisal worker for questionnaire random sampling method for a research work, and data analysis by pie chart and data instrument questionnaire. Finding and observation. First, company not follow the 360-degree feedback method in company. Parameters of appraisal for higher level employee are too many. 38% employees say the performance appraisal system or PAS in SEMCO is complicated. Maximum number of employees consider the performance appraisal system are held on only organization development. The appraisers also expect that their comments and suggestions should be taken into account while conducting the appraisal. From the survey, it is evident for both appraiser and appraisers' expectation from performance appraisal. Also, a majority of employees were satisfied with a current appraisal system, although they requested for a few change. Maximum number for employees say that the review of PAS is taken only once in a year. 100% of employees are aware about performance appraisal system in SEMCO. A suggestion or recommendation for a company. First, company must adopt the 360-degree feedback system for performance appraisal. 360-degree feedback system is a method of appraisal which is full circle, multi-source, and multi-rated system of obtaining information from peer, subordinates, and internal and external customers about the employee's performance. Next, company should reduce the parameter of appraisal. The parameters, especially for appraising the higher level personnel, senior official, deputy manager, and managers, are many and need to be reduced in number. Otherwise, it becomes a long and cumbersome process for the appraiser. Lengthy form be done away with. Performance appraisal form for senior office and above in very lengthy and should be modified and made shorter and simpler. And last but not least, proper communication of appraisal report, which is feedback. The appraisal report should be proper communicate to the concerned employee. Good performance should be appreciated so that the employee is sufficiently motivated and happy. Also, shortfalls and weakness must be made known to the employees so that they can work on their weakness and perform better in the next time around. That's all, thank you.
Okay, next is Literature Review 3. This is an article from ResearchGate created by Ahmed Al-Hariri, done by June 2020 from Muqtah University. First, I will tell you about the purpose of the journal. The purpose of this journal is to review what came in some studies articles that talk about the topic of employment and selection during the time period between 2010 and 2020 in order to study the modalities that are carried out in these two tasks in various organizations. The review provided an explanation of both tasks, taking into account what came from the recommendations in those studies. Finally, the researcher presented a brief summary about the recruitment and selection process. Okay, I will tell a little bit about the introduction. The human resource management activities are considered one of the most important activities that have an impact on company. Among these activities we will review in our review, these are related to recruitment and selection activities. To try to clarify these activities more and to stop the most important practices used in recruitment processes and the selection, to review through our review what came in many of research papers documented and published in publishing magazine and websites. The recruitment process aims to provide the best elements with excellent qualifications. The importance of the recruitment process to the human resources department is to prevent hiring wrong person who may cost the organizations very much. Away from the salaries and incentive offered, the process of employing an inappropriate and effective component may cause larger losers based on the decisions and activities wrongly practiced. Therefore, this process is one of the most important process for managing human resource and for the company as a whole. Whereas the selection process is the process that aims to select the best and most suitable donor for the job, taking into consideration the conditions necessary in this process and adopting the principle of justice, equality, and equal opportunities for all candidates, and that selection be made on the basis of merit. And there must be a type of control when selecting employees, as the right person is in the right place. Okay, based on the foregoing, recruitment and selection process are among the most important topics that we need to study and care about, and therefore I choose this topic. Based on foregoing, recruitment and selection process are among the most important topics and we need to study and care about. First, I'll tell you a little bit about recruitment. Recruitment is the process of searching the candidates for employment and stimulating them to apply for jobs in the organization. It is from BISWAS 2012. Stoner, Freeman and Gilbert 2000 stated that the purpose of recruitment is to provide a group of candidates that is large enough to let managers select the employees they need. Recruitment, according to Zuver 1997, refers to the discovery and development of the sources of required personnel so that sufficient number of candidates will always be available for employment in the organizations. Then, the purpose of recruitment is to seek out or explore, to evaluate, to induce, and to obtain commitment from the prospective employees so as to fill up positions required for successful operation and organization. Raghavi and Gopinathan 2013 defined it as the process of creating a group of qualified candidates for vacancies within organization in both professional and non-professional fields. Employment will include an attempt to identify a diverse group of applicants with the necessary qualifications and capabilities, and inform them of available job opportunities. There are various methods for recruitment, but for the sake of simplicity, they have been categorized under two broad headings from Neeraj Kumari 2013. I will tell you about common sequential steps in the recruitment process. First, identify the need to recruit or determine whether a vacancy exists. Second, update the job description, specification and profile. Determine the key performance areas of the job or recruitment planning. Consult the recruitment policies and procedure. Consider the sources of recruitment, searching for it. Choose the appropriate recruitment method. Develop the recruitment advertisement or strategy development. Place the advertisement in the most appropriate and suitable communication medium or implement a decision. Next, ensuring availability of application blanks or ensure pool of potential qualified applications or allow sufficient time for responses. Next, screen responses or screening. Last but not least, recruitment evaluation and control. Okay, now I'll tell you about selection process. Selection is the process of picking individuals who have relevant qualifications to fill jobs in an organization. Selection is much more than just choosing the best candidate. It is an attempt to strike a happy balance between what the applicant can and wants to do and what the organisation requires. Maksudnya, selection adalah proses untuk memilih individu yang mempunyai kelayakan yang relevan untuk mengisi pekerjaan dalam organisasi. Pemilihan lebih dari sekadar memilih calon yang terbaik. Ini adalah usaha untuk mencapai keseimbangan apa yang boleh dan ingin dilakukan oleh pemohon dan apa yang dikehendaki oleh organisasi. Alexandra Stolkowska and others, 2015, knows the process of selecting qualified individuals to fill vacancies in the organizations. In other words, the organization will not have much chance of success. It is fails to choose the people with the necessary qualifications because the main goal is to hire the best person, and it is a fundamental principle in equal employment opportunities law. The basic aim of selection as stated by Castetter 1992 is to fill the vacancy with personnel who meet the job-related competency, self-motivated, and directed or inclined towards success, consistent, efficient toward goals, system and organization, contribute well, and quick learner directed towards self-development. Okay, Neeraj Kumari 2012 mentioned in his study that the importance of choice lies in three aspects and mentioned it as follows. Okay, first, performance.
At first, our own performance depends in part of our subordinates. Employees with right skills will do a better job for any company and for the owner. Employees without these required skills or who are abrasive would not perform effectively, and the company performance will suffer to a great extent. So there is a time to screen out undesirables, to choose a better and perfect candidate that can effectively contribute to company success. Okay, second is cost. It is important because it is costly to recruit and hire employees, so cost-benefit ratio have to be considered while hiring of employees in order to avoid any unnecessary wastage of money and the valuable resources. The total cost of hiring a manager could easily be 10 times as high as one at search fees, interviewing time, reference checking, and travel and moving expenses. And third, legal obligations. It is important because of the two legal implications of incorporating hiring. First, equal employment law requires non-discriminatory selection procedures for selected groups. Second, courts will find the employer liable when employees with criminal records or other problems use access to customers' home to commit crimes. Lawyers call hiring workers with such backgrounds without proper safeguards negligent hiring. So the negligent hiring highlights the need to think through what the job human requirements are. So in order to avoid the concept of negligence hiring, it is necessary to make systematic effort in order to gain relevant information about the applicant, verify all the documentation. So there are common sequential steps in selection process. So there are 8 common sequential steps in the selection process. First, reception and initial screening interview. Second, application form. Third, in-depth selection interview. Fourth, background and reference checking. Fifth, medical examination and physical pre-employment testing. Sixth, assessment centers. 7, make a final hiring decision. And last but not least, final decision and make a fair job offer. So, as stated in the journal, the selection process, internal and external selection, had to be done in the right way for the company's success in future. Alright, next is the summary. The selection of internal candidates follows a process very similar to the selection of external candidates. The logic of prediction is applied and a selection plan is developed and implemented. One of important area where internal and external selection methods differ is in the nature of the predictor. Predictors used for internal selection tend to have greater depth or more relevance and are better suited for verification. As a result, the types of predictors used for internal selection decisions are different from those used for external selection decisions. Initial assessment methods are used to narrow down the applicant pool to a set of qualified candidates. Approaches used are talent, management or succession systems, peer assessment, self-assessments, managerial sponsorship, and informal discussion and recommendations. Of these approaches, none is particularly strong in predicting future performance. Hence, consideration should be given to using multiple predictors to verify the accuracy of any one method. These results also point to the need to use substantive as well as initial assessment methods in making internal selection decisions. Substantive assessment methods are used to select finalists from the list of candidates. Predictors used to make these decisions are seniority and experience, job knowledge tests, performance appraisals, promotability ratings, assessment centers, interview simulations and panels, and review boards. of these sets of predictors, job knowledge tests, promotability ratings, and assessment centers work well. Organizations need to give greater consideration to the later three predictors to supplement traditional seniority and experience. Although very costly, the assessment center seems to be very effective. This is because it is grounded in behavioral science theory and the logic of prediction. In particular, samples of behavior are analyzed, multiple assessors and predictors are used, and predictors are developed on the basis of job analysis. Due to their physical proximity to the data, internal job applicants potentially have greater access to selection data than external job applicants. As a result, procedures must be implemented to ensure that manual and computer files with sensitive data are kept private and confidential. Two areas of legal concern for internal selection decision are the UGESP and the glass ceiling. In terms of the UGESP, particular care must be taken to ensure that internal selection methods are valid in adverse impact of occurring. To minimize glass ceiling effect, organizations should make greater use of selection plans and more objective internal assessment methods, as well as help import of KSAOs necessaries for advancement.